Hey guys, it's Josh. Today we're talking about DNS security protections with Cato IPS. In our support docs, we have a really great section here dedicated to some of the best practices and some of those protections. So let's go over them. And I'll show you some of those demos inside Cato as well. So DNS tunneling, that's a big one. We're going to look at inside the DNS transactions for potential malware or ways to bypass. And so we're going to look and see, is there something in there that is nefarious? Is there a security issue? I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but there is a blog on how to detect DNS tunneling. I know it's a big one. So registering with a command and control server, the resolver, and then once you resolve to that, they can get a backdoor tunnel, and then that allows them to have DNS tunneling into your infrastructure. So there's distinct markers that we're looking for on those. We're going to look at TNX type queries. We're going to examine long and uncommon DNS queries. We're going to look for things like domain generating algorithm, which I'll show you in the Cato client as well. And we're going to look at the destination, provide threat feeds, and look at the popularity of it. Is it strange that Josh's laptop or this application server is going to this DNS server when it never does, and it's using these abnormal DNS queries with text? And so we're really using all the pieces of DNS to be able to bubble up those potential security threats for you. All right. So, and a few of the other things like Messenger, we're looking at heuristic protections in the IPS engine and looking for malicious payloads potentially inside the DNS messenger and seeing the next generation anti-malware engine in action. Looking at exploits and vulnerabilities. So if there's been a CVE, if there's been something released in the community, we're going to use that knowledge and apply it to the transactions that sit inside Cato, which is going to be almost all your DNS transactions, to look for known vulnerabilities. We're going to use domain generating algorithms. So that's going to look and see, like, are these new domains, strange domains that are being identified? We're going to bubble those up for inspection for you. And looking for cache poisoning, application, and X-domain attacks. So when we're seeing that, we're going to automatically inspect for those. And then overlay on the top of all this, we have an intelligence feed where DNS, rogue DNS servers, command and control servers are being reported all the time. And we're going to also start to identify obsolete or malfunctioning query types. Great. So let's take a look and see what we see inside Cato. So if I go here and I click on security threats, we actually have a section dedicated to DNS protection. So we're going to see some malicious domains, some crypto miners, and some domain generating algorithms. What's really cool is we're not just inspecting, we're blocking those as well. I have my Cato set up to block. You could do it for inspection, it's up to you. But most of the time, we're going to block this traffic so that there is no threat to you from a domain generating algorithm, a command and control trying to distribute malware. So what are some of the things that we can see in here? Let's take a look at each of these. So I can go and I can say, hey, I want to view the events associated with the malicious domains. Great. It's going to go from DNS down into the individual malicious domain events. And then I can look at each of those here. I can see the user from a zero trust perspective, the machine, the IP address, and the actual rules and the domain. So this one happens to be domain reputation-based signature, and it's malicious. So we saw that there was a DNS transaction to a potentially malicious domain, and then we blocked it. And you can see that result up here under block. All right, so that's amazing. So what are some other things that we can see here? If I go back to DNS protection, I can look at domain. We have crypto miners as well, but I can look at domain generating algorithms. That's one of the things that our best practices with IPS covers. So let me view events. It's going to show me all the events associated with domain generating algorithms. You can see here I blocked it. Zero trust, who's the user? What's the destination IP address? What is the individual source ISP? What is the threat reference? And so it's going to give me all these details associated with that transaction so that I can make a choice as to whether to block this. Maybe it's a monitor it. And you can see here's the actual query. So if that's something that should be in your environment, maybe you're saying, okay, I got to allow that because this is how we do these things. Maybe I set a certain parameters. Although that's very strange for this particular user to be using such a strange DNS query. So we're going to block that. Right on. So in summary, we're going to capture all your DNS security right within Cato for tunneling, for messenger, for CVE-based exploits. We're going to look at reputation and popularity feeds to be able to protect your DNS transactions so that that is not an attack vector within your organization. And we're going to reduce your risk when it comes to DNS. All right, guys, thanks so much. Hope this was helpful.